And then from here, this is what it'll look like. Of course, your name will be different than mine. And then I have the command that we've been using saved already. So this is the command. Okay. So here's the command. SSH-vi. This is my pair key wherever it's located. And then EC2 user at this part right here. For Mac, it's going to change based off of this right here. So every time you log on, I have to copy this part right here to right here, and then I click enter. It runs its I'm not sure if it will connect while this is doing this.
Okay, well, if, yeah, I'm not quite sure how the Mac terminal works, but I think what you've done is you've gone ahead and shown us really the gist of it, and it may not want to create multiple sessions here.
No.
And oh, go ahead.
And if you guys need help with the Mac, I can help. It took me forever to figure out, but I think I figured out all the security stuff around it.
Yeah, and
that's all
definitely for anybody who's having an issue getting connected with their Mac, definitely you know, reach out. I put a few things on the Blackboard site, like I said, which should help, but hopefully just seeing the basics of how to get connected there. You can see the command in the top of Danny's terminal window there. Basically just shows that you need to just need to reference your key, and then it's just the username and the public DNS of the Amazon instance, which you get out of your Amazon panel, and it should hook right up. So really, for folks who have a Mac, you know, you don't need to download you can't download MobaXterm, but you shouldn't need any type of other SSH client. Everything that I'm showing you how to do in MobaXterm, you should be able to do with your built-in terminal tool. And then by the end of this week, we should all be on VNC Viewer, and at that point, everybody will essentially be remoting in to their Amazon instance, and we're kind of be all on the same page there. So if you're having issues, please reach out, and Danny's been nice enough to offer to help folks as well. So if you can get in touch with him, Danny, what's a way that people can can they just IM you or email you through
just use my UNO, email, and I will once I stop sharing, I'll send a note out with my email address.
Okay, well, greatly appreciate it. And then if anybody has an issue, you know, please reach out.
I'll give you control back.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing again. All right. So you can see that in the time we were doing that, this thing is still sort of cranking along. So really, it probably takes 3 or 4 minutes, maybe as much as 5. It kind of depends on what might be going on Amazon. But eventually, after this thing cranks through essentially installing all of these packages, it will finish up and then give you control back with your terminal, and we can go ahead and issue the rest of the commands that we have to issue. So from this point, what we're really going to be doing is setting it up so our machine knows that it should use the desktop as a default. You know, whenever it reboots, it should start the desktop and make it available for us to use. And then we're also going to set it up so it will turn on a VNC server and make it so that we can connect remotely. So anybody who doesn't have the VNC Viewer downloaded, please go out and find it. It's available for then the links on the stuff you will need in the course materials, and it's available for both the Mac and the Windows desktop. So hopefully, like I said, we'll all be using the same tool set after this week. So another thing I just briefly wanted to touch on from last week as well is somebody had asked me a question about what the difference between I guess virtualization was and OpenStack. And so I had kind of mentioned last week that OpenStack was more around the tooling for creating kind of the infrastructure that allows stuff like AWS to run. And so I went out and took another look to sort of inform myself a little bit more about it. And that's really what OpenStack is about. So all of these providers like, well, both public cloud providers and what's called private cloud providers. So folks who want to set up a cloud inside of their own organization and make it so people can provision servers and do virtual networking, all the type of stuff that we're doing here with AWS. That's really what OpenStack is about. It's for it provides the tool set for creating those type of environments so that you can create, I guess, what's known as a cloud and be able to allow people to provision their own machines on top of whatever hardware you're using. So if you're interested in it, I definitely encourage you to go out and read up about it. It's a project much like Apache and Linux and other open source projects. So there's all sorts of information out there, and should you be really brilliant, you can even go out and contribute to those projects if you'd like to. So next thing, let me just pull up our PowerPoint presentation here while we wait for this to finish. So you can see the commands that I've got in here, and we're basically going to go out and set up making sure that our GUI starts every time during boot. The next thing that we're really that we're going to go through is installing this VNC server. And then one of the things to understand about VNC server is kind of a loose term when sometimes when you talk about stuff. Essentially, it's just sort of a little file-based program that's running at any given time. And so we're going to go out there and make a copy of it for our Oracle user and then configure that so that we can use it. And so every time that you connect to your instance, you're essentially starting up a VNC server instance that is specific to your session. So a number of people could connect to a remote machine if they wanted to, and we could actually set one up for our EC2 user as well. But because we will make it so that we can sudo from Oracle, or we can jump in and switch to that EC2 user at any time, we're not going to concern ourselves with making sure that we can connect with the EC2 user via VNC, because most of the things that we're going to be doing are going to be as the Oracle user from here on out. All right, so if we come back here, we will see that this thing should have finally completed, right? So you should see rousing success, and at this point there is actually a desktop installed on your machine. And now we just have to go through the mechanics of actually being able to connect to that desktop. So I am going to, another thing, just another tip I'll give you guys is a lot of times if you're copying some of these commands out of out of the PowerPoint presentation. You can save yourself a lot of pain and suffering by pasting them into an instance of Notepad first, because a lot of times what this will do is kind of strip out some garbage characters that might otherwise make the copy-paste operations not quite work the way that you had hoped. So I'm going to go ahead and type clear to clean up my screen here, and then I am going to start to issue some of these commands here. So the first command is basically saying that we would like our GUI to be our default setup. So again, we're using this sudo command, and we're basically editing some of the system settings here. So I'll go ahead and issue that command, and you should see some output like this, and the output's in the PowerPoint slides that I'm going to go post after we're done tonight. Next thing I'm going to do is just basically issue a control to set this up as the default desktop. It's going to go ahead and do that, and so that's pretty much everything we need to do for our desktop setup. And at this point, we can really switch to our getting our VNC server set up, and then we should be able to connect here pretty quickly. And
So I have a question.
sure.
So the wheel command, do we do that again or not, or do we just do the sudo system set thing?
Just switch to the EC2 user, and then you can use those sudo commands. And I've got a step I want to show you guys that I think I left out here that will make that wheel command work, but I don't want to bog us down right now with that step I left out. The making the Oracle user so it can sudo is more of a convenience thing than absolutely necessary. So I'll definitely get back to it, and we'll get set up with that. But for right now, just switch over to your EC2 user, and then you can issue all these commands that have sudo in front of them.
Okay.
All right. All right. So next, what we really want to do after we have installed the desktop, they recommend, is actually rebooting our machine. Now we can actually reboot the machine from our session by just typing sudo reboot, and what it'll do is it end up killing our session, and then the Amazon instance will restart, and in probably about 2 minutes it'll come back to us. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and you can see here that it has actually killed our session. And if we went to our Amazon window, I think we should be able to see that the thing is rebooting. And sometimes it takes a minute for that thing to catch up. But let's see if this thing is going to show us or not. I guess it's not going to. What we can see, though, if we try to connect right here by just hitting the R key, is if the instance is not back available to us, it's basically just not going to be able to connect. And so really you just have to give it a minute or two, and the thing will be back alive, and we'll be able to connect to it. So the next group of commands that we're actually going to issue here, I will switch back to our PowerPoint, are going to be these commands to install this the Tiger VNC server, and then we're going to go about the process of making some system modifications to basically say, hey, we're using this thing, and we will make the copy for our Oracle user. And what we will see here is we're actually going to configure this thing to run on a specific port. So VNC Server runs by default on port 5900, and because we're going to be setting our VNC server up with this 4 right here, that means it's going to be running on port 5904. The reason that is important to us is because in our Amazon panel, we're going to want to make sure that we have that port 5904 open. So if we were to come to our security groups here and view the rules, I'll just jump right into the group, make this easier. Take a look at our rules. We'll see that I've got this port 5904 open. So it'll be important to make sure that you have it open here. And we're also gonna need to open this port on the machine manually. So I don't know if anybody's sort of familiar with ports on computers, but if you think about a URL, a port is just sort of an extension to that. So if you think about zip code and the 4-digit extension to a zip code, you can sort of think of URLs and ports as the same thing. And those ports are kind of like that 4-digit extension to your zip code that actually give our machines or give us a way to connect to our machines. And you can see that there are default ports that are used for specific things. So the Oracle database always defaults to 1521. SSH is always going to default to 22. I want to say email and stuff like that is like port 25. Web server type access, where you're accessing a web page is generally port 80. 443 is your HTTPS. So there's all sorts of sort of ports that are defaulted to various things. And then I want to say you can go up to like 99,000 or something. So you can configure your instances to basically listen at these different addresses for particular purposes. So if we come back to our MOBA Xterm window here, I am going to be willing to bet that this thing is alive again. So I just went ahead and double-clicked on my session here again. I also should have been able to just hit an R over here and reconnect. So you can have multiple sessions, at least in MOBA Xterm, connected at one time, and it shouldn't really cause you any issues. So I'm going to go ahead and clean my screen up one more time, and then I am going to start issuing the commands that we need to issue. Sorry about that. So the first one that we're going to want to issue is this one to install the VNC Server. So I am just going to copy these out of the PowerPoint, and then I'm going to dump them right into Notepad as I go to make sure. So hey, here I am, dump this command in here, copy it out. That I know will strip out all the bad garbage. And now if I paste it in here, this should just work. Oh, one thing I need to do because I didn't get that wheel thing right is switch back to our EC2 user. So I'm just going to switch to EC2. And I'm going to try and remember my password. Another tip is if you are issuing commands, you can always hit the up arrow key to go back through the commands that you've issued. This can be particularly handy if you're jumping around a whole bunch. So know that the up or down arrow keys will take you through your history of commands you've been. And if I want to issue that command again, I just hit enter. And this time I will try to put in the correct password. All right. So what you will notice here is those commands that we go through are specific to the user. So because I had pasted this command in as the Oracle user, I have to paste it in again as the EC2 user. So now I'm going to go ahead and install the VNC server. It's really pretty quick and easy. There's not much to it. And now we're just going to sort of check the status of our check the status of our VNC server by issuing a command here. So again, I am just going to paste stuff into Notepad. You can see that the command we have here is basically saying, hey, give us the status of the VNC service at its default location. And what we will notice when we do this is the thing should actually be dead. You say, oh, well, that doesn't sound positive. But actually, it just, like I was saying, installs a default instance of this, and we actually need to copy it and make it specific to our user. So what we do to do that, come back over here. We are going to issue this CP command, right? And that means copy. We are going to copy the VNC server at service, which is just a file from its default location, and then we are going to put it in the location, and we are going to go edit this file and put in stuff that is specific to our Oracle user. So this this line right here just says basically, okay, copy this file from here and put it here and give it this name. So I will go ahead and paste that in. And so we can see that that jumped in there no problem. And then I'm going to copy the this command here, and this basically just says, hey, I want to open this file with our VI or Vim, our Vim editor, and then we're going to jump in there and make some edits to it. So I'll move that out of the way. Go ahead and paste that command in there. And so now it opens up this file that we need to modify. And if you actually read the README information that's inside of this file, you will see that it actually kind of tells you to do what we just did. And if you look right here, it says, hey, copy this file to the place that we just put it. And then, so we've already done this #1 piece, and then it wants you to edit the user and parameters appropriately down below. And so if we take a look in this file here, you can see that user is meant to be replaced by the particular user that we're trying to configure this for. And in this case, it happens to be our Oracle user. So I'm in a Vim editor. If you haven't used Vim before, if you want to edit, you just hit the I key. And then I'm just going to use my arrow keys to come down here and change the settings on this file. So here in place of user, I am going to type Oracle. And then right down here, we're going to put in a parameter. And what this basically is going to say is we are going to be telling it the default resolution of the desktop that we want to render with VNC Server. So I like to put mine on a high resolution monitor. To geometry, you type in dash geometry and then your dimensions. So let's see, I'll probably just set mine up as 1080. Oops, sorry. That's another thing with Lennox is it doesn't like your number keyboard sometimes, and I always forget that. So I'll set mine up as what, 1920 by 1080. And you can change this in your desktop, or you can always come in and edit this file if you need to, so you're not committed forever here. And then the other thing I need to change here is this other user tag, and just change this to Oracle. And that's really all there is to it. So if you take a look here, we have changed the 2 spots where that user tag were, and we have added this command here that just tells the VNC server what the dimensions of our desktop screen should be when we connect via VNC. So in Vim, then, if I want to stop editing, I hit the escape key. We can see that insert goes away at the bottom, and then colon allows me to issue commands. So I'm going to type W, which means write the file. Excuse me, and I'm going to write Q, which means quit. So now we have theoretically set up what we need to set up in order to be able to connect. And what we need to do next then is actually connect to the VNC server with our Oracle user and set our password for logging in. So let me copy the commands here and I'll put them in Notepad again. So if we take a look here, basically what we're going to say to this thing is we want to, hey, reload the process on the server that really handles this type of thing. We want to enable this service that we've just created. And then after that, we'll open our firewall, and then we'll switch back to our Oracle user. And if we haven't done anything horribly wrong, then we should be able to set our VNC password. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this command and tell the system to basically reload. And then I am going to issue the command that says, hey, we would like to enable this VNC service that we just configured. And you should see output that looks something like that. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to configure our firewall. So a firewall is basically you know, a process that runs that determines what ports or connection points a machine can be connected to on. So your firewall should be all up and running on here, but we can check the state of it by issuing this sudo firewall state command, and you should see that the thing is running. If it's not, it will be, so I won't worry about telling you too much about if it's not. But if it's not, there's a command you can issue to start it. And then the next command that we want to issue is actually one that says, hey, we want to go ahead and open this port 5904 so we can actually connect to this server on that port with our VNC client and view our desktop. So we're going to go ahead and issue that command. And I'm sorry, I think I buried my chat window anywhere underneath here. So if anybody has a question, please just chime in and speak up, and I'll unbury my chat window here in just a second. So you should see success after you've opened that port. And if you remember, we were on, we went out to our security group on Amazon and opened it here as well. So that's sort of two layers going on. Amazon's controlling this as well as we are controlling it at the server level. So now we should be able to reload our firewall rules, and at that point port 5904 should be open and accessible. So at this point, we have added the desktop to our instance, and then we have configured, we've added a VNC server to our instance. We have configured it for our Oracle user, and then we have changed the firewall command to see, change the firewall command to allow us to connect at at 5904. So hey, one thing, I see some questions out there, and it looks like folks are trying to follow along. So hey, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this stuff that I've been pasting out of Notepad, and I'm going to put it in the chat window. So basically all of the commands I've done here for the past few minutes should be in here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this over here for a second, because I definitely don't, definitely like it if you guys want to work along while we're doing this. Let's see if I can get this right here. So right here, if you take a look, this was the command for right after we got our desktop installed, setting it as the default, and then we should see the output that we would expect. And then we should see setting it as the default, expected output, the command to install the VNC server, then to check the status of the VNC server after it, the output you ought to see, the command to copy over to that number 4, port 5904 one, and then the command to open this up. If you recall where the user tag was, we just added the Oracle user. And in fact, let me just jump back in and we'll take another quick look at that file so you guys can see it if you're trying to follow along here. Pull this out of the way. All right, let me copy this out of the chat window one more time. How about I just copy it out of my Notepad here. All right, so I'm going to open up the file that we configured for VNC Server one more time so we can take a look at it. If you remember, we changed the user tag in 2 places. So where you see this brackets user, you're going to replace that with Oracle, which I did here and here. And then I added this geometry tag at the end of this line right after this %I to tell it what resolution I want my desktop to be rendered at.
Is that part required?
No, I think, I can't remember what it defaults to, but it should just default to a particular geometry.
So the Oracle part's the only part we need, really, in that part? But that's what I got lost at.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, you need the Oracle. I would probably put in something, 1024 by 768, or some favorite resolution you might be able to remember, 1280 by whatever. I just happen to have a monitor here that works well for high def, so I put that in there. But you can play with this, and the other thing to remember is when you get to the desktop, you should be able to change your resolution on the fly if you find it isn't working for you.
Okay, that makes sense. I'll do that later then. Okay.
And if you have a problem, then I guess I'd go back and put that resolution in there, but I don't believe it's required. I just always put it in there. All right, so I'm not going to do anything to this file, so I'm just going to go ahead and quit by hitting :Q to jump back out of here. And then really at this point, we want to switch back to our Oracle user. Because I started this session as the Oracle user and switch to the EC2 user, which we can see right now I'm logged in as EC2. If I were to type who am I, it would say, oh, I'm EC2. If I type sudo who am I, it would tell me that I'm the root user. And now if I type exit here, it'll jump me back to the session that we connected with. And if I type who am I one more time, we'll see that I'm the Oracle user, which is who I want to be at this point. Because if we've done everything correctly, I need to I'm going to type in the VNC Server command, and it's going to ask me to set a password. Little piece of advice here, I would advise everyone to probably set this password to the same thing you've set your other passwords to, or you will get lost in a never-ending array of different passwords. Now, is that best practice? Of course not. But when you're working on a machine like this, where you don't necessarily care how vulnerable it is, and it's really not exposed to all that much danger, and the worst thing that's going to happen to you if somebody is really bored and decides to attack you and figures out how to do it is you'll lose your machine. It's sometimes a lot easier with these dev boxes to just kind of keep your passwords simple. Don't do that in the real world, but you'll make your life easier when you're doing this type of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and type in the command VNC Server. And so it is basically saying, hey, you're going to need a password to be able to access. So I'm going to go ahead and type my password in.
Is it just any password?
Yeah, and it'll ask you to validate it. You're setting a password for your connection to the VNC right now. But it won't care if you make it the same as your other stuff. Okay, so now it is basically said, okay, you are all set up, and you should be able to connect to your VNC server.
What if you get an error?
If you get an error, then it probably means that some portion of the previous stuff didn't go right. You should be able to go back. You should be able to go back, switch back to the EC2 user, and sort of walk through those steps again, and get it set up right. If you're having an issue, I'm certainly available after class here to walk through it.
Okay, I think it just worked. I did it again and it worked. I don't understand why that did that.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard for me to say.
Sorry,
No, that's all good.
I talked myself, sorry.
It's all good. So, okay, last thing we're going to want to do here then is switch back to our EC2 user. And we should be able to, I screwed up that command. Switch to our EC2 user. Enter your password correctly. And then we're just going to want to reload the system one more time here. So again, I'm going to put these in Notepad. Come here, Notepad. Okay, so I'm going to reload that, and then I should be able to restart the Oracle VNC service. And so at this point, we should, with an emphasis on should, be able to connect via VNC Viewer. And we will sort of emerge from the darkness of our command line world here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my instance of VNC Viewer. And so what this will look like is this little thing right here. So you can see that I've just got an IP address. If I pull up my AWS instance again on our panel, go back to my instances, pull this up. You should be able to use the DNS here if you want to as well. These are functionally equivalent. I prefer the IP because of its brevity compared to a DNS entry, but you do what you want. So I'm going to copy this IP address, and I'm going to come over here and paste that in. I think I'm going to paste it in. All right, I'm going to go back and copy that one more time. And I'm sorry for the folks who are sort of following along at home here. Let me paste those commands in that the last two commands that I issued. I'll paste those into the chat window again. So those are, after you switch back to the EC2 user, you can use those. So I'm going to go back to AWS here. I'm going to copy this IP address. I am going to go to my VNC Viewer. And if you remember from last week, every time we start and stop this instance, these IP addresses are going to change. So it'll be important to remember that as you're reconnecting with your various tool sets, you have to go in and change the IP address that you're using in here as well. All right, so I've got my IP address in there. You'll notice that this is 2 colons right here, and that's very important. If you don't put 2 in there, it won't connect. And then I'm using this port 5904. So we're saying, hey, connect to this computer out there on the interweb at port 5904, and there should be a VNC server running at that port and listening at that port that allows us to connect to our machine. So I'm going to go ahead and connect. You can see from an encryption standpoint, I said let VNC server choose. I'm going to go ahead and click continue. It will now ask me for the password that I set. And of course it wouldn't jump up on the screen I just did. Here, let me switch to the screen that VNC server jumped to. Okay, so I'm gonna jump over here. So I am seeing a authentication required. This is essentially should be the same password you've used for everything else. Technically, I believe it's that EC2 user password. And then at that point, you should see the welcome screen to your desktop pop up. So first time you ever log in, it's going to ask you some stuff like what language would you like to use? You can choose a keyboard. I think all of this stuff is probably going to default to English. So if you have another preference, you should be able to select it. And then I'm going to skip connecting any of my online accounts. And then it says, hey, you're all set. You can start using your Oracle Lennox server. And then it's going to pop up, handy stuff to know about Gnome. If you're interested, you can play around with this. But this is a desktop. It should be fairly intuitive to most people. It's going to look and act just like other desktops do. So you probably don't need to spend a whole lot of time looking at this. So then if we close that, hey, we have a desktop of our very own, and this is really how we're going to interact with our machine from this point forward. We will really connect with VNC Viewer from here forward. Now, I see going on in the chat window there that it looks like some folks are having some issues. So did anybody want to speak up or?
I can. I don't mind talking, obviously. Okay. So all those commands we just issued, should that have been done in EC2 user blah 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 Oracle or the tilde one? It
should have been the EC2 user. The pseudo commands, none of them would have worked as your Oracle user, right?
Okay, right. And then I switch back to Oracle. Then I do the sudo system restart, and then then I'm getting
Yeah. So
I'm
were
getting
you?
this error then
Yeah. Okay. That was as
as I did. Oh geez.
okay.
As I did this error.
Okay. So when you issued that as the EC2 user,
EC2 user Oracle.
yeah, right. You got that error is what you're saying. Did you
Yes.
did you issue that reload command?
The Damien one.
Yeah.
That did I? Yeah, that one worked fine.
Okay. Just the second one didn't work?
Yeah.
Okay. Do me one favor if you don't mind. Do you have the VNC viewer already connected or already installed on your machine?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead and try to connect, and let's see if you're able to.
So I was not listening because I was trying to figure this error out. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm exactly the same. Here.
I was going to be honest with you.
Yep, that's all good. So I'm gonna close my VNC window, and then I am going to let me go ahead and share my screen one more time. Sorry, I have too many windows. So I'll jump this over here. All right. So I am going to pull up VNC Viewer one more time. And so what you should see when you get this VNC Viewer is you're going to want to put in the IP or DNS from your Amazon panel, 2 colons and 5904 for the port. If you hit connect, you should see, oh, hey, you're unencrypted. You should get this warning. And then you should be able to enter the password that you put in when you type that VNC server command as the Oracle user.
So let me find my VN. Okay. I just need the IP address.
Yeah, off of your Amazon.
Right. Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay, and then I click. Mine looks different. I don't have. Okay, just so I can paste. Okay, never mind. Connect. Oh, it's loading.
That's a good sign, hopefully.
Hopefully, the longer the better.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move my screen share back over to this other screen here. And then I should be able to pull my VNC viewer screen over here as well. All right, so with any luck, for those of you guys who are cranking along here, you'll be able to connect. If you're not able to connect, I can certainly, we can certainly get together here right after this, or I can get together with you guys tomorrow and we can figure out if you made an error somewhere and fix it. It shouldn't be too hard to get fixed, but in theory, if you follow along with the steps as I gave them to you, they should work.
Damn it.
I don't know if there's a difference with the Macs or not, but like I said, I'm certain we can figure it out.
It timed out.
Okay. So that leads me to believe that perhaps your VNC server isn't running, which I'm guessing it's just maybe we missed a step as we were going along. You missed a step as you were going along there. So let me get together with you when we're done here, and we'll figure out what's wrong with it, because it may take
Okay.
a couple minutes to just.
Sounds good.
So now that you've got your desktop installed, you'll notice up here that there are a number of applications that just sort of come pre-installed with the thing. So you'll find that you have a web browser, and you should be able to get to the internet with that. And there's just some other sort of random tools that are used for various purposes. And we're going to use some of them ourselves here. Incidentally, should you hit a lockout screen, this can be frustrating if you suddenly, this thing sort of times out and locks out on you. Just swipe up from the bottom and you should get a login screen. But one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to set it up so this thing will not essentially drop a screen curtain on us. Because really, when we're connected to this thing, we're not going to want the machine putting a lock screen or an idle screen on us. So one of the things to know here is anytime you want to open a terminal window, sort of like we've been doing, you can just right click on your desktop and say open in terminal. And then you have that same command line interface that you're seeing through MOBA Xterm here on your desktop. So that's why, after this point, we shouldn't really need to have to do too much with MOBA Xterm. We're going to install a couple of things on this desktop to make our lives easier. One is called a deconfig editor, which allows us to make a couple of settings changes. I didn't do it last week, and I was thinking this week it might be a good idea. So why don't we take, say, let's take a 10-minute break. It's 9:12 right now. Give everybody a chance to go to the bathroom or do whatever they got to do, and then let's reconvene. Let's say at 9:25, and I will walk you through these settings, and then. For those of you who are having an issue, maybe we can see if we can get you hooked up here in the meantime. And then I'm also gonna circle back and help show folks how to set the Oracle user up so that the Oracle user can actually sudo the same way that the EC2 user is going to do. So, all right, let's take a break. I will be come back and start speaking again at 9:25. In the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and stop sharing, and then I'll pop my screen back up when we're ready to go again.
Mr. Dayton?
Yes.
In the meanwhile, can you share the presentation?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Oh, you want me to share the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. I'll tell you what. I will post that to Blackboard right now, and then if it turns out there's any edits we need to make to it, I'll just post another copy of it later.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. All right, everybody. I'm going to get started back here. And first thing I want to do here is actually show you kind of where, how to get the sudo thing set up correctly to make it so you don't have to enter a password or anything like that for the Oracle user. So I am going to just show it to you from the desktop. You can do what I'm going to show you here. You could do it in MobeX term as well, but we'll go ahead and just pull a terminal up in the desktop scene as we're all ready. I'm already logged in here. So I'm going to open up a terminal, and I'm actually going to switch over to my EC2 user, and then there is a special file for controlling who has the access to switch to the super user. And the way that you actually edit that command, there's a special sort of text editor for it. And so if I type in sudo and I type in vi sudo, this will actually open up the file where the permissions for the sudo users exist. So now you can see we've opened up this file here, and if we arrow down inside of this file, we can see where it actually sets the groups, and you can do quite a bit of permission stuff in here, but we're going to come down and just find where it sets the groups that allow folks to switch. So we can see right here, we've got this %wheel command, which is basically saying, hey, for the users in the wheel group, which we should have already put our Oracle user in, they're allowed to switch to the root user. Now, one thing that probably won't be in your file until you put it in there is this no password. And you can see an example of this down below if you're looking for the text to type in here. If you type in this no password and then go ahead and save it, then, and you do it just same as the regular editor, :WQ, then when you come back out and actually make yourself the Oracle user again, you should actually be able to sudo at that point. So if I type in sudo who am I, then you'll see we're acting as the root user, and we don't have to enter a password in order to be able to switch it. So as you're moving along with your Oracle user, the Oracle user is going to be the one you want to log into your desktop as, and the only one we've configured to allow you to log into your desktop. Being able to switch, being able to sudo without having to switch over to the EC2 user is just going to make your life a lot easier as we go along, I think. Just to, I guess, catch everybody up on that, the command after switching to the EC2 user, I'll just type this in here, then you're just going to type sudo and vi sudo and go look for the wheel group and put that no password command in there, and then that should square everything away. So now the next thing we're going to do just in the terminal here on our desktop is we're actually going to use some of the more of the utilities that are, or more of the commands that you can issue with yum. And yum is just a package installer. So if you think about Windows, right, you're used to being able to go out there and install pretty much whatever you want to on your desktop, and yum is sort of the utility that allows you to install stuff onto your Lennox machine. And if you go up and go out on the internet and look up yum, you'll find a reference to all the commands, and I'll paste these commands in the chat window as we go here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this command, and you can see I'm able to paste from my Windows desktop into this Linux desktop out there in the world. Most of the time, the copy-paste stuff works pretty well back and forth. Sometimes if your sessions get a little squirrely, it helps to sort of log out and log back in, and it'll fix a lot of issues. Basically, what I'm saying is, hey, Yum, I want you to go out and search for this dconfig editor, and I'd like to see if we can find a package named after that. And so what it's going to do is it's basically going to go out and search through its software repositories and see if it can find something called this dconf editor, which is used to edit some of the settings that are on your machine. So you can see what it's done is it's gone out there and actually found something, and really what it's saying is, hey, I've got this program for this 64-bit computer, which you just happen to be on. So if you want to, you can go ahead and install it. And so if we want to install that, I mean, we've done this before, but at this point, we can just type in sudo yum, which is our package installer, install, and then we can actually copy paste this name of this program down here. So I'm just going to say copy. I'm going to paste that right there, and then I'm going to hit space and -y, and all that tells it is say, hey, for everything where you would ask me yes, no, just say yes. So I'm going to go ahead and say, go ahead and install this thing, and it happens real quick, and then we can install it. So now, if I wanted to actually run this program that we just installed here, I should be able to just type the name of the program into this window. So what I'm going to do is just copy that, I'm going to paste it right here, and I'm going to hit editor, and if this thing installed correctly, it's actually going to open up this program, and hey, what do you know, it happens to actually be a graphical program that we can use. And then what we really want to do here is we want to change some of the settings on our desktop. So having messed with VNC desktops a whole bunch here, one of the things that I have noticed is it's really annoying when they lock out and whatnot. So we can actually use this little editor program to change some of those settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drill into this org node, and then Gnome, and then we're going to go down to desktop. And then there is a setting down here for session, I believe. And then you can see it's got this idle delay. And basically, I think what it's saying right now is, hey, if you don't do anything for 5 minutes, then I'm going to lock this thing out. And that just always aggravates the crap out of me. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to 0, which basically means don't ever lock it out. And then all you have to do at that point is click off of it, and you can close this dconfig editor, and that should keep this thing from annoyingly shutting those things off. Now, the next thing we want to do, and I'll just bring up the PowerPoint here to show it to you quick, is we want to change a couple of other settings, and we're going to do this actually through the application menus. So just move this little window out of my way. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're actually going to try installing a program using a, what might be considered by some less painful method. And hey, is there a point and click way to do this type of stuff? And for a lot of programs, there actually is. So if I bring my desktop back up, I'm going to go up here. I'm actually going to select this application installer, and so it happens to be in the favorites menu right now. It's also under the system tools menu, so if it doesn't happen to show up there, you just come down to system tools and click application installer. So I know that there's a little program out there called a la carte that makes it easy to add menu items to my menus up here. So I like to install that program just as a sort of you know, utility that I always like to have on there in case I want to add shortcuts to my menus as I go along. So I search a la carte. It says, hey, I've got this program here for you. And then I can go ahead and click install. It's going to want my password. And then I can go ahead and say, boom. And there it goes. It installed that program for us. And then if we kind of wanted to prove that again, we could come out here and should be able to type. I want to believe it's just a la carte in here, and it'll start the program. And so this little program will allow us to edit our menus, and we can mess around with that a little bit more when we get to it. But you can see here that you know, you can change the things, both the order and what things are available to you in what menus. And so it just gives you this ability to sort of customize stuff and make it the way you want it. So that's a handy little utility and shows us how to use the application installer. Next thing we want to do is configure a couple other settings that can affect the way things lock out on us. So if we come down here to applications and we go to our system tools again and we hit settings, the other thing I like to change here is under privacy, there is a screen lock thing which will sort of automatically lock our screen lock. So I like to turn that one off. I think I should be able to just go back. And then there's another one under the power settings. And I like to go out and turn this blank screen and automatic suspend to off as well, if they're not already set that way. So that's a couple of just you know, basic configurations we can do to our desktop and kind of personalize it to make it the way we want it to be. Now there is a couple of other things that we want to do which will really sort of prepare us for our database install. So here's the first point where we can actually prove that Firefox actually will go out and connect to the internet. So we're going to go ahead and open our Firefox web browser out here, and it will connect, and it'll just come up to this sort of default page for Linux. And what we want to do is we actually want to change a couple of settings on Firefox. One of the first things we want to change here is we want to go over here to the sort of tools menu here and select our preferences. We want to change the download location. So right now it's defaulting to downloads, which is on our root volume, right, which has 15 gigs of space. And for some of the stuff that we're going to be downloading, we can very quickly run our root drive out of space, and that root drive is where your operating system is. And if you run that thing out of space, stuff's going to go horribly wrong for you. So we actually, if you remember, when we were setting our machine up, created a directory or attached a drive to the INV directory specifically for storing our software. So I'm going to go out and browse to this thing. And you can see here when I browse, I can select the file system, which will basically take me to the very top of the file system and allow me to drill down. And just as a matter of sort of curiosity here, if we look in the home directory, you'll always be able to find the different users and their sort of home directories where they have their stuff like their desktop and download directories. But I don't want to use that. I want to use this INV directory. And so I'm going to go ahead and select that. And then what this says now is, okay, every time Firefox downloads it, stick it into this directory instead of the one you had set there. And that'll be good because we're going to be downloading a bunch of software. And in fact, we will go out and download some software right now. So what I'm going to do is there's a lot of useful things that people create for Linux because they're just, I guess, good people and want to write utilities that help folks out. And usually there's some selfish reason for it. But so there's this thing called software repositories. And one of the software repositories that's out there that is super helpful and has all sorts of fun tools in it is what's called the Fedora, and it's called EPEL. And if we look for EPEL 7, I forget what EPEL stands for. It probably tells us here. You'll see this link for the EPEL Fedora project, which is just another sort of open source thing that lots of people contribute to. And if we click on this, it will take us out to this website, and we can actually download it. Yeah, that's what it is. Extra packages for enterprise Linux, right? So this is a software repository where a whole bunch of extra stuff gets put that are just really handy dandy things that make working with your Linux instance sort of infinitely easier. So if you recall, we installed a Oracle Enterprise Linux 7.2, I want to say. So the repository you choose is going to be related to what version of Linux you're on, and we are on 7. So that is the repository that we're interested in. And so if you look at this x86-64, that basically means, hey, this is for a 64-bit server. And so that is the repository we want. And if we click on this, it will and actually bounces out to this page here. Hold on a second. Let me go back. If we click on this, it will take us out to a directory that sort of has all the software in it that's in these repositories. And if we come down here, we can actually download the latest release for Enterprise Linux 7. And this is what we really want here. So if we click on this, it should actually download what's called an RPM file, which is sort of like, I don't know, maybe the equivalent of an exe file on Windows. It's basically going to put something on your computer. So if we click on that, then you'll see that this thing will open up and you can install it. Now, really with a software installer, you can basically say, hey, just go ahead and install this thing on my machine, or you can download it and you can install it manually. And I guess for the sake of giggles here, I'm going to go ahead and just save it so that we prove it goes where we think it goes, and then I can show you that you can use the yum utility to install this stuff, and that's a skill that will probably help you out a great deal over time on Linux. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and then if I click show all downloads here, we are actually should actually be in our INV directory. So if I open the containing folder, you'll notice, hey, I just happen to be in INV, and that's a good thing because that's where I want all these downloads to go. So if I want to install this thing, I'm actually going to do it through the terminal window, and gives us a little more practice with this. I'm just going to right-click on my desktop, say Open in Terminal. I am going to switch to the INV directory by just typing CD for change directory /INV. And then if I type the list command, I will see that RPM file that we just downloaded. And so if I actually want to install that, I can just type sudo yum install, And then if I type the first couple characters, another thing that's really handy is you can tab to autocomplete a lot of stuff. So if there's only one file in a directory, or if it's pretty uniquely named, you only have to type a couple of characters, and then you can just hit the tab key and autocomplete it. So now, this thing, I didn't type -y, so it's going to prompt me on whether I want to do all these things. I'm going to go ahead and hit Y. And so it has now essentially installed this repository on my machine. And what that means is for all the programs that might be available out there in that software repository, I can now just tell Yum, hey, go get this program, and it'll run out and fetch it for me and install it on my machine. So I could have said install with software installer, and it just basically would have had a little pop-up down here on the bottom of the screen and said, hey, I got some stuff to install. You want me to install it? So now there's really just a couple more things I want to make sure we get as a part of preparing ourselves for installing our database. So one of the things we need to do is actually edit what's called our host file. So a host file on any machine basically is a way of routing things using sort of references, and I'll show you what the file looks like in a second. But if you've ever been on a computer and typed localhost something to access an application that was, you know, running a web page on your computer, that's using the host file. Now, when you install a database on a Linux machine, it really doesn't like the default setup for the host file. And we'll just go ahead and switch over to this. So one of the things that's a little bit nicer on the desktop is there's actually an editor that's a little friendlier than the Vim editor that we can use. And because we want to open this as a super user, I could open this editor, and it's called gedit. It's right here. I could open this right from this menu, but I actually want to open this as the root user. And so the way I'm going to actually do that is just do it from a terminal window, and I'm going to type sudo for, you know, switch to the super user, and I'm going to type gedit. And it basically says, okay, I'm going to open up gedit as the super user, and that means I'll be able to edit files like the host file. So now I can actually go out and traverse the file system in a graphical way that we're kind of used to doing, right? So if I type computer here, we'll see that we're at our top level directory. I happen to know that the host file and a lot of system files are in this etc directory. And then if we scroll down here, we will eventually get to our host file, and we can open that thing up. So now it'll open it up, and you can see what we've got here is it's just mapping an IP, and this 127 you can read as me from a computer standpoint, right? So this is a thing called Loopback Routing, which allows a computer to just route stuff to itself. It's basically saying, hey, anything that refers to localhost or localhost local domain or for or blah, 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 any of these things that we have here, go ahead and route them back to ourselves, right? What I want to do, or what we want to do, is we actually want to put an entry in here for the actual host name of this machine. And this will make our database install not go horribly for us. So if we want to know what our host name of our machine is, we can just open a terminal window, type host name, and it'll give it to you. And there's the host name right there. You might notice that you see it all over the place as you're opening terminal windows. So, but this just gives you a quick and easy way to graphically pull that host name out. And all we want to do is actually put this into this file. And the reason this is important is because when the database software installs, it's going to pick up the system host name, right? And it's going to stick this in the configuration of the database software. And so if this host file doesn't say, hey, when somebody refers to this host name, such as my database server, route it back to myself. If it doesn't know to do this, then it basically pretty much hoses your database software. So in order to make our install go well, you just need to edit this file by putting the host name in here, and then when something on the machine refers to the actual host name, it knows to route it back to itself, and everything goes great. And we have a system file open, but because we opened our text editor as the root user, we can just go ahead and click Save here and close the file. And then if we wanted to prove to ourselves that we actually created or completed the edits we said, we can open gedit as Oracle, and we would be able to read this file, and so we can traverse to it the same way and just kind of double check and confirm that we actually edited it. And so if I come down here to host, open this thing up, you'll see that that edit is in here. But because we opened as the Oracle user instead of sudoing over to the root user, we don't have permission to edit this thing. All right, so that takes care of the host file, which is important for the database install. And then at this point, there's really only a couple of little things that we want to get here. So one of the things we're going to want for some of the applications we're going to install is actually the most current version of Java. And this is the first time that you're actually going to need your Oracle account, right? So I'm going to come over here and open up Firefox. I'm going to come out here and type Oracle JDK download and just hit enter. And then Oracle is desperately wants you to have Java on everything on Earth because they acquired it when they bought Sun. And so if you come out here, you can actually get JDK downloads. And you're definitely going to want a JDK here. That's important. So you see where it says JDK, go ahead and click download. And then one of the things you'll have to get used to with Oracle software is they're going to want you to accept their license agreement. And it's probably not a bad idea to read through that once. All it basically says is, hey, if you're a developer, you want to try this stuff out, you're welcome to try it out. But if you're going to be using this for any sort of production usage, then we're going to want a bucket of money from you. Now, in the case of Java, they actually give Java away for free because they're happy for you to have it because it makes you dependent on them. But for a lot of their other pay-for applications, you are going to basically say that, yes, I promise to give you millions of dollars should I decide to use this software for anything other than sort of evaluating it or educational purposes. Now, what's super important here is that you grab the version that you need, and you can see there are all sorts of them. We are very much interested in this Lennox x64 RPM file, right? That's the one that we want because we have a 64-bit Linux instance, and we're going to use Yum to install it. So if I go ahead and click on this thing, I can actually, I guess this time around, let's try the software install, right? So I'll say okay, and then our software installer, I guess you'll see right down here pops up. I guess the Java software maybe doesn't require you to log in, but some of the other software we get will. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. You've got some software to install, and the application installer pop up, and I'm going to say, hey, go ahead and install that. Of course, it will want my password from me. And now at this point, it's actually going to go out and put this Java JDK on our machine, and this will allow another program that we're going to install to run happily. So another thing that we're going to want as a part of operating our database is a tool called SQL Developer, and it's the same thing here. If we go out and type in Oracle SQL Developer, and this time I promise you it'll ask me to log in, we will find Oracle SQL Developer, and they'll have the latest version out here, and everything's all about cloud these days, so you'll see cloud on everything. I'm going to click download, and then again, it's very important for us to make sure that we select the right version here, right? So you are going to want the Lennox Rpm, and one of the things it tells you right here is, hey, if you're going to do this, you're going to need a JDK, which we already downloaded. You'll also notice if you wanted to put this on your local machine, it should work for Mac, and it should also work for your Windows machine. So they're doing a pretty good job of trying to support all the major operating systems, and so hopefully that's good news for some folks. But we are actually installing this on our Linux desktop, not on our local machines. So we're going to go ahead and grab this Lennox Rpm. So again, you always have to accept the license agreement. I promise to give lots of money to them. Click download. And this time around, it's going to say, hey, I actually want you to log in using your Oracle account. So I'm going to type that in, and golly, I don't remember my password. I should be able to just come out here and fetch it. Give me just a second here. God help me if I have to type this thing in. All right, so I think that's it. Certainly looks like it. Please paste. Oh, I am gonna have to type this thing in, or me. And I use a password generator, which of course always makes the most obscure, squirrely passwords. So there's no chance I will ever remember it. For the love of God, let me get this thing right. All right, I thought I had this password. Let me try this thing one more time. This is as good a reason as any to maybe not put such a complicated password on your Oracle account. All right, so I've obviously got the wrong password sitting here for this thing. I'll just reset that password or find the right one here, and I can download this. But we can pick up with downloading the SQL Developer software next week because we're kind of running out of time anyways. Basically, first thing next week, we'll go ahead and install SQL Developer, and then we can get going on installing downloading and installing our Oracle database software. And to let you know, if you happen to follow along and can remember your your password on this stuff, we're going to do the same thing for the Oracle database software. So if you type in Oracle database 12c in here, you'll find that Oracle also has this available for you. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick the Oracle 12c database download, and I'm I'm actually going to pick one that seems to point right at the version of stuff we want. And then when you come out here, you're going to see that they have the database 12.102 version. And if you want to sort of be ahead of the game a little bit for next week, just go ahead and download these two files. And then you'll be ready to sort of pick up right where we'll be picking up with installing the database. But really we need that SQL developer downloaded, and then we need to download these two database files. These database files are pretty good size, probably take 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 minutes to download them. So, you know, if you have the time, it's not a bad idea. Just go ahead and download them. And then you'll have them and be ready to go. If not, I'll show you guys next week how to install SQL Developer, and there's one sort of configuration thing you have to do to point it at that JDK that we downloaded. And then we'll get around to actually beginning to install our database software. And so by the end of next week, we should have a database up and running on our Linux machine and alive, and you should be able to connect to it. And then we can begin all the other fun that goes into the course and having a database to play with. So, all right, that makes it 10 o'clock. So we'll wrap the lecture up for this week. If you take a look in the slides that I upload, it walks you through what you need to install SQL Developer. So if you want to go ahead and do that, I would have done it for you, but obviously I jacked up my password. But I've got it all in the slides there, show you exactly how to install it. We'll be using SQL Developer a whole bunch. Should you have any issues getting it set up, I'll walk through the setup one more time next week. And then really, we're going to download the database software and install it. So really, at this point, we're ready to install our database software if you've gotten to this point. Obviously, I know probably a bunch of you probably haven't gotten to this point. Knowing that our first assignment here is due in a couple days, I would highly encourage you to reach out to me tonight, tomorrow, the next day. You don't want to try and jam this all in at the last second. Should you have problems, it might be kind of difficult to get it done. I think if you follow along with the slides, you should basically be able to get this thing done. But obviously, it's easy to make a misstep, and then if you need some help, you know, your chances of getting me at midnight on Friday are kind of low. So definitely feel free to reach out to me during the day, and if I have a few minutes via Skype, I'll be happy to jump on with you during the day. If I don't have time when you reach out to me, I definitely will. We can set up a time, and I've had a couple students already reach out, and we set up a meeting where we can get together. So please feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to help you. And hopefully we'll get everybody all set up and everybody gets 100 or really 200 on their first assignment, and we will get going on getting the second assignment. If we get these first two assignments done, you know, you will have locked up basically 40% of your grade at that point, and you'll be looking real good. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and end the lecture. I see there's a couple people who are looking for some assistance, so I'm happy to keep this meeting going. And I guess if folks don't mind, we can do some of this troubleshooting right online here, and maybe it'll help somebody else out. And then for those of you who want to get together at Skype, I can do that as well. I see a couple contact requests. And I'll definitely feel free to IM me here, and I can either help you right now or in the next few minutes, or we can set up a time to get together here in the next couple of days. So, all right, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off, And go ahead and stop the recording for this week.